game, you hear the crowd contaminate. First and 10, I'm in the game, you hear the crowd contaminate. First and 10, I'm in the game, you hear the crowd contaminate.
Hi, I'm Terry Hatch from Discovery Education, and despite what this may look like, I'm not just taking the world's most elaborate selfie. This is actually a normal day at EA Sports Tiburon Studios here in Orlando, Florida. So welcome to all of you to the EA Sports Madden NFL Football by the Numbers virtual field trip. This is where some of the greatest minds in video game development hone their skills, analyze data, and create visually stunning gridiron action. All leading up to the premier gaming event, the annual release of Madden NFL. I am here with Ben, a producer here at EA Sports. Welcome.
Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. As a producer for Madden NFL, I know that you are really sort of the gatekeeper for everything involved in the game. So can you kind of walk us through your job and tell us how you keep tabs on all these different aspects of production?
Yeah, sure thing. It's really an annual development cycle. So depending on where we are in the calendar, we really dictate what we're doing from a day-to-day basis. So I handle a lot of different things as a producer on the title. So I do things like schedules and budgets, the real fun stuff. I also work with apparel companies too to make sure we've got the right cleats and gloves in the game. But also I work on our franchise mode as a producer there, and I help determine what features we're going to add every year to try and make it more authentic and feel like the NFL.
Wow, well, it sounds like it's really a team effort all the way through.
Oh, most definitely. It's very much a team effort. There are over 400 people that work on the game on an annual basis. So if you think of it in team terms, that's over 7 teams worth of people that work on the game every year.
Well, that is definitely a very impressive roster. And we are going to get a chance today to go one-on-one with some of your teammates here at EA Sports to learn a little bit more about the skills, the data collection, the technology, and the programming that it takes to create Madden NFL. We are going to get an exclusive look at the NFL Combine, football's annual rookie event, where EA Sports gets the chance to gather data from all of the new players to ensure that they are seamlessly integrated into the game. Oh, and I'll tell you what that selfie setup was really all about. Are you ready, Ben?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get off the bench and get into the game.
Each year, over 2.5 million hours are spent developing the newest version of Madden NFL.
I am here with Clint, who is the lead gameplay designer here at Madden NFL. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. So can you just kind of walk me through what does a lead gameplay designer do all day long?
So in addition to playing video games, we are the tip of the creative spear here at Tiburon, and what that means is we're the guys that think of all the cool ideas and the new features that we want to put in each game. And then what we do with those ideas is really think them through, get design documents written on them so that other people can also understand our vision. And then we pass that off to the rest of our team, the engineers and the animators, and we make sure we see that product through to completion.
And so how long does it typically take from the time that you're thinking of all of those new great ideas to when a player is actually seeing them in a game?
So on average, it's about 2 cycles. A cycle for us is about 10 months long. So 2 of those is about how long it takes when we get that idea from our heads into the game.
So I know you collect a lot of data. What kind of data are you collecting? And then how does that actually impact a player's experience?
For gameplay specifically, there's really 4 data points that we look to drive our decision making over the course of the cycle. The first 2 are telemetry and biometrics. These things give us actual in-game stats that tell us how often features are being used, how many people are playing each mode, how often people are staying in the game. And then on the biometrics side, we get a lot of football stats about Madden. So how many yards each play is gaining, how many formations are being ran, online usage of each team. All of that stuff is being fed back to us so that we can properly react and keep the game balanced for our players. In addition to that, we also use what we call NPS, or Net Promoter Score. And this is a score that we compile based on surveys that we send to our players, and then they send us back feedback about how much fun they're having with our game and each specific feature. Lastly, in pre-production, before the game goes to market, we use snapshot testing, which is weekly play testing. With each week, we get a data point for each of the features that we're working on, and we can see how each is either going up or going down with the goal of obviously going up every week to make sure that we're making progress in all the right areas.
And can you give us some real-life examples of how the students playing at home might experience the game differently because of data that you've collected?
So we put out a number of updates after we launch every year. They're either title updates or tuning updates. And those things are direct correlations to those telemetry that we're getting back. So if there is a certain play in the game that is gaining more yards than it should, then we're going to go do some tuning to our game. We're going to make some changes, and then we're going to update the game after you have it in your hands. And that's happening all year long. So you're seeing the game progress based on those stats.
And what do you think is actually the biggest misnomer about your job and what you do every day?
It must be rad to play video games all day, which I do. I do play video games quite a bit, specifically our game, because I need to test all the features I'm working on. But there's so much more to our job than that. Like I said, it's creating ideas. It's working, like I said, with animators and engineers, making sure the product reaches its goal on time. So it's a little bit more than just playing video games.
Yeah, I admit I was thinking that, but it's clearly very data and analytics driven. So can you talk to us about a time when you experienced failure in your job and how you moved forward from that?
Yeah, so there's not one exact specific scenario I can give you, but what I will say is in our job as designers, we fail every day, and that's actually very important. It's part of our development. They teach you to fail fast, learn from it, and move on, and that makes our game better and it makes us better. So for every one of my really good ideas that you may see in the game, 1, 2, maybe 3 if I'm lucky per year, there's probably 1,000 that ended up on the cutting room floor that were terrible or pretty bad. So failure is definitely part of what we do here, and it's how we learn and how we progress and how we get better.
So you failed, you made mistakes, but you still have your dream job.
Absolutely, and it actually makes me better at my dream job.
Our designers brainstorm hundreds of new ideas, and every year, 50 or so new features make it into a brand new version of Madden NFL.
We heard how designers like Clint brainstorm and then design brand new features for the game. But how does EA Sports take those and bring them to life in the most authentic way possible? To start to answer that question, we're going to check out one of the NFL's biggest events of the year, the NFL Combine. Here, we're going to see how EA Sports collects data from all of the rookies at the Combine and uses that data to update the game and to determine player rankings. Let's check it out.
Stepping through the fire, walking through the wire. We are warriors.
Every year, over 300 NFL prospects are invited to the NFL Combine. It's the ultimate football tryout. There, the rookies run, bench, jump, and test their skills to gain coaches' attention and vie for a spot on an NFL team. Their performances are monitored, tracked, and compared. But those stats don't just determine the player's on-field futures. EA Sports is there too, gathering data that will play an integral role in the rankings used in their annual Madden NFL release. Remember that super swanky selfie setup? Well, the rookies pose in that too. Each player at the Combine sits down for portrait mode in the head scanner, a crucial step in adding their likeness to the game. When the Combine is over, rookies wait for their fate in the draft and their rankings in Madden NFL. Yeah. What's up? What's up? And that is where our ratings expert, Dustin, comes into play. Welcome, Dustin.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. I am so excited to hear about your job as a rankings expert for Madden NFL. So tell us a little bit about it.
What we do is I take full control in the database of everything that pertains to a player. So their first name, their last name, their suffix, anything like that, full equipment, their hometown, their college, all of the ratings, all of the traits, their hairstyle, anything that basically defines them as them, I have control over. So during the season, preseason, I'm always tuning, adjusting, making changes, anything like that to make the players as accurate as I can make them.
Dustin, tell me about what kind of numbers and data you collect at the NFL Combine and how you then integrate that into Madden NFL.
We collect the 40, the 20-yard dash, the 10-yard split, the bench, the vertical, the short shuttle, and the 3-cone. And we turn all of those into ratings. So, for example, the 40 will work with speed, the 10-yard split will work with acceleration, the bench helps us with strength, the vertical helps us with jump, and then the shuttle and the three-cone will help us determine an agility rating.
And what kind of impact do the rookie ratings have on the overall game? And then how does that really lend credibility to the gameplay experience?
We're trying to create what you're going to expect of the rookie in that upcoming season. Everything that they've done at the Combine, the Pro Day, and in college, and trying to emulate that that's what's going to happen this upcoming season by putting these specific ratings on them. We never try and shoot too far and overrate them, because what I've learned when talking to multiple NFL players is that you have to earn everything as a rookie. You have to earn it in the locker room, on the field. You have to earn it in Madden. You have to earn it everywhere. It doesn't matter if you're picked first, even if you were a star all through college, that all immediately goes away. You were a nobody.
So it sounds like every once in a while you hear from some not so happy players about their ratings.
That happens, I would say, on at least a weekly basis, I would say. So there's no way to sit there and prove, on a lot of ratings at least, how good a guy is without some sort of speculation. And everybody feels that they're the best, as they should. That's how you got to the NFL. You deserve to be there. I still have to find a way to slot you according to the way everybody else plays. So I've had instances where guys have blocked me on Twitter because they weren't happy with their rating, even though they were in the 90s. Even though they were at the top, that still wasn't good enough. Most everybody, if they're not upset with a rating, they will come to me and say, "You did all right." And that's basically the nicest feedback I end up with.
So tell me a little bit about how you use data and how it impacts the decisions that you're making.
A lot of specific traits, like physical traits, there's data for. A lot of other ratings, there's not so much data for. So you have to formulate an opinion and a number based on what you see on film, what you saw in college for rookies, for example. What you just think the player is compared to the other players around him. For example, Odell Beckham, obviously, when you make a one-handed catch like that, you earn that 99 rating because you've never seen anything like that before.
All right, the big question. Tell me what you like most about working for Madden NFL.
It's probably the greatest opportunity I think I've ever had in my life, to be able to interact with players on a day-to-day basis, interact with creative minds all around you that have innovative ideas to be able to push forward and work through and solve problems. You're always finding ways to make things better and improve. And I think that's probably one of the coolest things about this is you always pick up some sort of new information someday, somehow, some way. And it's because you're surrounded by very, very intelligent people.
Over 300 players participate in the NFL Combine on an annual basis. We take that information and Dustin puts it into his master spreadsheet. That spreadsheet has over 200,000 cells that he updates on an annual basis.
Madden NFL is a gaming experience like no other. Players feel like they are actually in the game. Greg here is in charge of making sure that every little detail is brought to life, from the grass on the field to the players' cleats to every expression and mannerism, creating a game day experience for players everywhere. So Greg, you are a senior lead character artist. Talk to us a little bit about what that means and what you do all day long.
Okay, so for instance, scanning, right? We'll take a scan and we'll have to process that scan, and it could be a head, it could be a piece of gear, it could be anything really pertaining to our game.
I think we'd all love to hear what that process actually looks like from start to finish. So can you talk us through, for example, if a team had a new helmet, from the time that they have that new helmet to the time when a player will actually see it in the game, what are the steps that you go through?
So we'll get that helmet in-house and we'll run it through our scan process. And from there, we'll take that data and we'll run it through the calibration and in the scanning software that actually pulls a 3D model from that. So with the scanning process, it picks up down to the millimeter and the smallest detail. And from there, we actually get colors for a particular team like we have here. And we'll work with the team so that everything's 100% accurate. And so when you see it in game, there's no difference from when you see it in real life.
So I have seen so many of these really detailed camera rigs throughout EA Sports. Tell us, if you're scanning one individual item, whether it be a helmet or a shoe or something else, how many different images are you actually taking?
For example, a shoe may take up to 250 images.
So can you walk me through all the pieces of this rig and how they work together to get you the shots that you need?
Yes, it's a 12 camera system that pivots on a lazy Susan, which is just 360 degrees. So for this particular scan, we have a helmet, and the helmet is comprised of a few different parts: the chin strap, the face mask, the shell, and the interior accessories. And every player has its own setup, so oftentimes we'll take this particular face mask off and we'll scan the actual, just the shell. We'll even remove the chin strap here off this helmet.
Wow, and talk to me a little bit about the lighting that you're using.
So the lighting is very important, because if you have shadows or if you have hot spots, you may not get the best asset in the end. So making the lighting as even as possible is crucial when doing this scan.
So this ability has really revolutionized your work in the last several years. But what do you think is the next big piece of technology that's going to change what you do?
The next biggest piece of technology is Frostbite. Frostbite is our new engine. The ability that Frostbite gives us is to create every subtle nuance that anything has to offer. For example, you can see in this particular helmet we have different material separation, and there's a shiny aspect and a matte aspect. That's something that we really try to hit in Frostbite, being able to hit subtle things that actually add very powerful items to our games.
Our team spent over 200 hours scanning NFL stadiums to update their look in the game to be within a millimeter of the real-world dimensions.
Have you always been interested in video games? And how did you get your foot in the door?
I think I found out in the mid-90s when I was starting to become a teenager that all of the football games that I was playing and having so much fun with and playing with my friends was a potential job opportunity when before every game, like, I would go in and edit and change a bunch of things, and I'd use a bunch of strategy playing the game, whereas my friends would just get very, very annoyed with me, sitting there waiting for me to get through all these things and editing a depth chart and changing a player's helmet and face mask, and they just wanted to play the game. So I think that told me at a pretty young age that this was a career that I wanted to get into. I just didn't know how to get into it at the time.
Greg, what educational path did you take when pursuing your career as a character lead in Madden?
I went to art school. In art school, I learned computer animation. That was my major. 4 years there, and I was recruited before I actually graduated to here at EA.
So yes, I was a football player. I played 5 years in the NFL as an offensive lineman, mostly with the Washington Redskins. And when that came to a conclusion, I wanted to still be involved in football, but I also loved gaming. So I thought, what better than to get on with Madden, my favorite game. So I started as an intern here at Tiburon and wanted to learn as much as I could because I didn't have any experience outside of football. I just knew I wanted to bring my expertise to the game that I love. So I got with all of my teammates, a lot of great people here, and they all showed me all the things I needed to learn to become a game designer. And at the conclusion of that internship, I was fortunate enough to get a full-time offer, and I've been now on Madden for 6 years, and I'm now the lead gameplay designer.
Ben, what advice do you have for students interested in a career in video game development?
That's a great question, and one I get all the time. There are so many different ways that you can get into the game development industry now. You can go to school and get a degree in game design, but what I recommend most is to play everything you can get your hands on. Play every genre of game. And not just play it, but kind of think about why did the designers decide to make the game the way they did. Kind of break it down and critically think about the game and not just sit back and have fun.
Thank you to the employees here at EA Sports who showed us around the Tiburon studio today. And thank you to all of you who tuned in. Don't forget to test your skills at footballbythenumbers.discoveryeducation.com. And you can also join us for a live Twitter chat right after this video using hashtag #ANumbersGameVFT. Thank you all so much. It's time for me to get...